Welcome. I am truly grateful to have you here. Please, make yourself comfortable and take your time. This story was crafted with care, dedication, and deep respect for your attention. I hope it brings you joy, reflection, and perhaps even a touch of nostalgia. Once again, thank you for sharing a moment of your day with me. The year is 1347. You push open a heavy oak door, the cold bite of a medieval winter instantly grabbing at your exposed skin. The air itself feels thick, not just with the chill, but with something else. A cloying, sickly sweet perfume that tries and fails to mask an even deeper, more fundamental stench. It's the smell of something dying, something decaying, but not in the usual way. This is different. This is the sweet stench of pestilence, and it's everywhere. You pull your wool cloak tighter around you, the rough fabric scratching at your neck, a futile attempt to keep out not just the cold, but the insidious air itself. Your breath plumes white in front of you, quickly dissipating into the oppressive gloom. The cobbled street beneath your worn boots is slick with a thin layer of grime and something else, something dark and wet that you try not to identify too closely. You walk carefully, your gaze fixed on the ground, avoiding puddles and scattered debris, trying not to brush against anything. The city, usually a vibrant tapestry of shouts and laughter, the clatter of carts, and the incessant hum of 1,000 lives, is eerily quiet. A hush has fallen, heavy and profound, broken only by the distant, mournful tolling of a single bell, ringing once, twice, a third time, then fading into the pervasive silence. It's a sound that has become a constant companion, a grim tally. You pass by houses with shutters tightly drawn, their windows like vacant eyes. Some doors are boarded shut, marked with a crudely painted red cross, a warning, a tombstone. A sudden gust of wind whips down a narrow alley, carrying with it a faint, almost imperceptible moan that sends a shiver straight up your spine. You quicken your pace, your heart thumping against your ribs, a frantic drum against the silence. Ahead, a lone figure, wrapped head to toe in dark rags, shuffles slowly along the opposite side of the street. You keep your distance, your eyes fixed on their slow, uncertain gait. They don't look up, don't acknowledge your presence, simply continue their agonizing progression, a shadow moving through shadows. You notice a small, dark bundle clutched tightly in their arms, but you avert your gaze, not wanting to see, not wanting to know. You turn a corner, the putrid sweetness of the air intensifying, a truly nauseating perfume now. On the stone wall you see a fresh scrawl of charcoal, a simple word, pray. The letters are uneven, desperate. You instinctively touch the small, cold iron cross hanging hidden beneath your tunic, a silent, desperate plea. The world outside feels like it's holding its breath, waiting. You feel it too, that tense, fragile pause, wondering if the next breath will be your last, or just another intake of the sweet, bitter air. If this story resonates with you, please like and subscribe. I'm curious, where in the world are you listening from, and what time is it there? Share in the comments. Even in the deepest gloom, even when surrounded by the visible decay of everything familiar, you find yourself still taking that next step, still drawing that next breath. It's a testament, perhaps, to something unbreakable within us, a stubborn refusal to simply cease, You step into the hushed chamber, the familiar scent of dried herbs and stale sweat doing little to mask the cold, metallic tang that now defines your home. A single guttering tallow candle casts long, dancing shadows across the rough-hewn walls, making the small space feel vast and oppressive. Your eyes immediately find the simple wooden trestle in the center of the room. On it lies a figure, still and unmoving under a thin linen sheet. The air around it seems heavier, colder, drawing the warmth from your own body. You approach slowly, each step feeling weighted, echoing in the profound silence. A younger sibling, huddled in a corner, sniffles softly, a sound quickly stifled. You place a hand gently on their shoulder, a wordless offering of comfort, and feel the tremor run through their small frame. Then, you turn back to the trestle. With a deep, shuddering breath, you reach out and slowly pull back the sheet. The face revealed is familiar, yet terribly altered. The skin is pallid, drawn, and a faint discoloration around the neck hints at the disease's cruel touch. You fight down the nausea that threatens to rise, forcing your gaze to remain steady. There's a quiet dignity in the stillness, a stark finality that hits you harder than any wail. Another pair of hands, older and trembling slightly, offers you a length of coarse linen. It's the shroud, freshly washed, still carrying a faint scent of lye and sun. You take it, the fabric surprisingly heavy in your grasp, the weight of it suddenly symbolic. This isn't just cloth. It's the last embrace, the final barrier. You begin the grim task, your movements practiced but slow, deliberate. You lift an arm, surprisingly stiff, and feel the chill of the skin beneath your fingertips, a stark contrast to the warmth that once radiated from this beloved person. Every fold of the linen, every careful tuck, is a small act of devotion, a final service. You notice a small, fading bruise on the wrist, a memory of some forgotten scrape, and a wave of raw grief washes over you, stinging your eyes. You blink it back, refusing to let the tears fall. Not now, not yet. There's work to be done. The younger sibling watches, eyes wide and unblinking, their silence more potent than any scream. You work together, silently, your hands brushing occasionally, conveying more understanding than words ever could. The shroud finally encloses the figure completely, transforming the familiar shape into a solemn, anonymous form. It feels strangely lighter now, though the weight in your chest remains crushing. A quiet sigh escapes someone's lips, a collective exhale of sorrow and completion. The task is done. The intimate ritual, born of desperation and love, is complete. You stand there for a moment, simply observing, the quiet hum of loss filling the space that breath once occupied. You realize that even in such a time, when life feels cheap and fleeting, the act of honoring it, of carefully laying it to rest, becomes more profound, more essential. It's a testament to the enduring human need to acknowledge, to mourn, and to find a sliver of meaning in the face of overwhelming despair. The heavy velvet curtain brushes your cheek, unexpectedly soft, as you slip into the grand hall. The air inside is thick with the scent of expensive perfumes and polished wood, a stark contrast to the world beyond these walls. Immediately your ears pick up the low murmur of dozens of conversations, a constant, shifting hum that seems to carry unspoken words and hidden meanings. It's a sound that makes the hairs on your arm stand slightly on end, Your gaze sweeps across the opulent room. Tapestries depicting hunting scenes hang from the high walls, their colors rich but muted by age, absorbing the torchlight. Courtiers dressed in silks and brocades that rustle like dry leaves with every movement dot the expansive space. Each face you see is a mask, carefully composed, revealing nothing but what they wish you to perceive. You feel eyes on you, subtle glances that slide away the moment you try to meet them, like shadows retreating from light. Near the dais, a flash of silver catches your eye, the intricate hilt of a dagger peeking from a nobleman's belt. You notice the way he stands, a little too still, a little too observant of the group gathered around a central figure. That figure, draped in a gown of deep sapphire, sits upon a carved throne, her posture regal, unyielding. It's the queen. Even from this distance, you feel the weight of her presence, a silent command that pulls at every fiber of the court. You take a sip from the cool, sharp wine in your goblet, the metallic taste momentarily clearing your mind. A hand, adorned with heavy rings, gestures subtly from across the room. It's a message, a silent invitation, or perhaps a warning. You register it but do not immediately react, allowing your eyes to drift casually, as if uninterested. This place demands patience, a careful dance around unseen traps. You feel the polished marble floor cool beneath your thin-soled shoes, a grounding sensation in this dizzying display of power and pretense. You observe the queen as she inclines her head slightly, acknowledging someone with a faint, almost imperceptible smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. It's a calculated gesture, a flicker of power, and you feel the collective tension in the room tighten, a fragile cord stretching. A whisper, lighter than air, brushes past your ear from a passing lady in waiting, not for you, but part of the ceaseless current of information that flows beneath the surface. You feel the subtle shift in the atmosphere, the way alliances can form and shatter in a single, silent moment. Every breath here feels like a move in a dangerous game. You realize that in such a world, where beauty and danger are intricately interwoven, survival isn't about strength, but about foresight, observation, and the quiet understanding that every single detail, no matter how small, could hold the key to your fate. The sudden, satisfying click of the jeweled clasp echoes in the almost silent bedchamber as you lift the heavy crown from your head. An immediate, undeniable wave of relief washes over you, a physical lightness that makes your shoulders slump, unbidden. For hours, its cold, intricate metal has pressed into your brow, a constant, tangible reminder of the office you bear. You place it carefully on a velvet cushion, its gems glinting dully in the low light from the single oil lamp. A miniature silent sun. The heavy silk of your gown feels restrictive, almost suffocating, after the hours spent encased within its layers. You stand for a moment, letting the elaborate fabric pool around your feet as your ladies-in-waiting, their faces impassive, help you shed the ornate overdress. A deep breath, the first truly unfettered one you've taken all day, fills your lungs. The scent of extinguished candles and fading incense lingers in the air, a final whisper of the day's elaborate pretense. You cross to a small writing desk, its surface cluttered with rolled parchments and sealed letters. The chill of the night air seeps in through the narrow window slits, a sharp contrast to the stifling warmth of the crowded throne room you just left. Your fingers ache as you unroll a document, the fine vellum cool and smooth beneath your touch. It's a petition, one of dozens, each representing a life, a plea, a judgment that rests solely on your word. Your gaze travels over the neat, flowing script, deciphering the formal language, the urgent undertones. You feel the weight of countless unseen eyes, the expectations of an entire kingdom pressing down, not on your head now, but directly onto your soul. There are no easy answers here, only choices, each with a cascade of consequences stretching into an uncertain future. The silence in the room isn't peaceful, it's vast and heavy, a canvas for the relentless march of your own thoughts. You pick up a quill, its feathers surprisingly light, a deceptive tool for the heavy decisions it will ink onto history. You feel the tremor in your hand, not from fear, but from the sheer, unending burden of responsibility that gnaws at you, even in this private, quiet moment. The cold crown may be off your head, but its invisible weight, the cold, stark reality of power, still presses down, demanding vigilance, demanding an unwavering will. In this quiet hour, stripped of outward grandeur, you understand that true power is not merely a privilege to be enjoyed, but a relentless, isolating weight, a solitary vigil that demands everything, leaving you alone with the echoes of every choice made and every choice yet to come. The biting cold isn't just on your skin anymore. It's a deep, pervasive chill that seems to emanate from the hollow ache in your stomach. You press a hand against your belly, feeling the tautness of emptiness, a constant, gnawing sensation that has become your unwelcome companion. The air itself tastes thin, like frozen dust, offering no sustenance, only an added layer of discomfort. You pull your meager cloak tighter, the coarse wool doing little against the relentless cutting wind that whips through the skeletal trees. Each gust feels like a physical blow, stealing what little warmth your body might hold. Your boots crunch on the frozen earth, the sound unnaturally loud in the oppressive silence that has settled over the land. Usually, this time of year would bring the bustling sounds of a winter market, the distant thud of an axe, the cheerful barking of dogs. Now there's only the mournful whistle of the wind through barren branches. Your eyes, tired and sunken, scan the frozen ground, desperately searching for anything. A forgotten root, a frozen berry, anything that might offer a momentary reprieve from the relentless hunger. You pass by fields that lie fallow, their soil iron-hard, promising nothing but more waiting. The silence is profound, a stark absence not just of sound, but of life, of hope. You stop by the village mill, its great stone wheels standing entirely still, silent. There's no rumble, no dusty scent of ground grain, no rhythmic creak of turning gears. It's an inert monument to a harvest that failed, to granaries that stand empty. The grinding emptiness of the millstone, with no grain to turn, no flour to spill, fills the air, and your gut echoes it. You watch a wisp of snow drift lazily from the sky, landing on the motionless wheel, a cold, indifferent touch. A small group of figures huddled near the frozen stream catches your eye. Their faces are gaunt, etched with the same silent despair that grips you, their movements slow, almost ritualistic, as they scrape at the thin ice, hoping for a trapped fish, a tiny creature to sustain them. No one speaks. There are no comforting words, only shared, understanding glances, a recognition of the collective struggle. You feel the weakness in your own knees, a tremor that runs through your limbs. The cold has become a dull throb, a constant reminder of how little energy you have left. Every fiber of your being screams for warmth, for food, for the simple, comforting weight of a full stomach. But there is only the vast, biting emptiness and the chilling promise of another day, just like this one. You realize that true hunger isn't just a physical craving. It's a slow, insidious erosion of everything. A gnawing emptiness that eats not just at your body, but at your spirit, leaving behind a stark, cold clarity of what truly matters for survival. You stand before the empty larder, the chill from the stone walls a constant, unwelcome guest that has long since settled into your very bones. Your fingers trace the rough, unyielding wood of a bare shelf, raising a fine, persistent dust that smells faintly of old earth and deep disuse. There's no rich, comforting scent of cured meats here now, no earthy aroma of stored vegetables, no warm, promising fragrance of bread. Just the hollow echo of your own ragged breath, and the cold, vast, unyielding silence that presses in on all sides. A small, thin hand, surprisingly gentle, tugs at the worn sleeve of your tunic. You turn slowly, your joints aching with a dull stiffness, to see your youngest child, their eyes wide and impossibly luminous in their gaunt face, are fixed on yours, holding an unspoken question that cuts deeper than any words could. There's no complaint, no whine, just an innocent, profound plea that pierces straight through the familiar knot of despair tightening in your stomach. That clenching has nothing to do with physical hunger anymore. It's the constant companion of knowing the larder is bare, and still, they look to you. Your gaze, heavy with unspoken thoughts, drifts to the small, scarred wooden chest on the rough-hewn table. Its lid, usually kept securely latched, now sits slightly ajar, a silent invitation to a painful choice. Inside, nestled on faded velvet, lies a small, tarnished silver locket, an heirloom passed down through generations, its delicate engravings smoothed almost entirely flat by the countless touches of hands long gone. You reach for it, the cool, aged metal feeling impossibly heavy in your palm, a tangible anchor to a past where such luxuries were simply part of life, not a desperate measure against its cruelest edges. The taste of salt is a familiar presence on your tongue now, the persistent metallic tang of tears that have burned the back of your throat too many times to count. You swallow hard, feeling the dry rasp, a physical reminder of every suppressed sob. You remember the stories that accompanied this locket, the pride in its craftsmanship, the love it represented, holding memories of faces you can barely recall. Now it stands as a stark, undeniable choice, sentiment or survival. The watchful eyes of your child, still silently observing your every hesitant movement, seem to absorb every flicker of indecision playing across your tired face. You feel the tremor in your own hand, not solely from the biting cold that permeates the room, but from the immense crushing weight of an impossible decision, a burden almost too heavy to bear. The fading light from the narrow window struggles to penetrate the gathering gloom, casting long, hungry shadows that stretch and dance across the earthen floor, mimicking the emptiness within. You turn the locket over and over, its smooth, cold surface against your fingertips, a silent, agonizing conversation unfolding within your mind. It's a debate between the precious, intangible threads of memory and the raw, undeniable need for another day's breath, Another moment of warmth for the small, shivering body beside you. You can feel a cold resolve, a hardening of the spirit, beginning to settle deep within you, steeling your heart against the ache of what you must do. The larder may be undeniably bare, but the fierce, quiet intensity of a parent's will to find a way, even if it means sacrificing a piece of your cherished past, burns with an undeniable, desperate fire. You understand that sometimes the most profound acts of love are not whispered words or grand gestures, but quiet, agonizing sacrifices, stripped bare of comfort, made in the face of an emptiness so vast it threatens to consume not just your body, but the very essence of who you are, leaving only the stark, unwavering resolve to survive. The air is thick with the scent of burning peat and unwashed fear, a heavy, suffocating blanket that presses in on you from all sides. You stand on cold, packed earth, the damp chill seeping up through your bare feet, making your toes curl involuntarily. Your eyes, wide and darting, struggle to adjust to the dim light cast by a single, flickering torch, its smoke stinging your nostrils. Rough hands, cold and impersonal, push you gently but firmly against a roughly hewn wooden post. The splintered wood digs into your back, a minor discomfort barely registering against the frantic drumming of your heart. You pull your arms instinctively across your chest, a futile gesture, as another set of hands, surprisingly strong, pushes them down, exposing your skin. The chill of the air immediately raises goosebumps, tiny prickles of flesh responding to the sudden vulnerability. 3 figures stand before you, their faces obscured by the shifting shadows, their expressions unreadable. One holds a small, wickedly sharp needle, its metallic glint catching the torchlight like a tiny, malevolent star. The other 2 watch, their breathing heavy, their presence a silent, suffocating judgment. You feel their gaze crawl over every inch of your exposed skin, searching, dissecting, convinced they will find what they are looking for. A low murmur passes between them, hushed words that you can't quite distinguish, but their tone is clear. Accusation, certainty, condemnation. You try to swallow, but your throat is dry, constricted, and a metallic taste, like fear and old blood, coats your tongue. You feel a drop of sweat trace a cold path down your temple, a stark contrast to the internal furnace of terror raging within. The figure with the needle steps closer, their shadow engulfing you. You instinctively flinch, but a steadying hand on your shoulder holds you in place. You close your eyes for a brief moment, bracing yourself, feeling the whisper of cloth against your skin as they lift your sleeve higher. Then, a sharp, almost imperceptible prick. It's quick, a fleeting jab, but it sends a jolt through your nerves. You hold your breath, waiting for the burning sensation, the undeniable pain. But there is nothing. Just a dull, distant awareness of pressure, a sensation more observed than felt. The needle withdraws. You open your eyes, fixed on the spot. A tiny bead of blood, dark against your pale skin, rises slowly. The figures lean in, their faces still shadowed, their eyes piercing. They exchange another look, a shared, knowing glance that needs no words. The lack of pain, the absence of a yelp, the almost imperceptible sting. It's not a reprieve. It's the proof. You feel a cold dread settle deep in your gut, far heavier than any physical pain, as the unspoken verdict hangs in the air around you. You realize that sometimes the absence of sensation, the very lack of pain, can be the most terrifying feeling of all. A silent condemnation that marks you not with a bruise or a cut, but with an invisible brand that can shatter your world entirely. The metallic tang of fear in the air is now joined by something else, something acrid and choking, the smoke of 100 small, angry fires. It curls upwards, twisting and swirling in the gray sky, an omnipresent, suffocating shroud that burns your throat and stings your eyes. You cough, a dry, rattling sound that feels lost in the cacophony. You're pushed forward, jostled by a surging tide of bodies, their rough clothing brushing against yours, their desperation a palpable force. The ground beneath your feet is no longer cold earth, but a churning mud, churned by countless boots, littered with trampled straw, and something darker, stickier. You stumble, catching yourself on a rough arm, feeling the sudden, intense heat from a nearby bonfire lick at your cheek. The air is alive with sound, the roar of a crowd, a guttural, terrifying beast that swells and recedes like an angry tide. Above it, individual voices rise and fall, sharp and piercing, shouts, accusations, desperate pleas that are swallowed almost immediately. You hear a shrill cry, quickly cut short, and a shudder runs through you. It's the sound of a world unraveling, of reason being swept away by a tide of pure, unadulterated terror. Your gaze is drawn to the center of the square, where a rough platform has been erected. Figures move upon it, dark silhouettes against the flickering flames. You see hands pointing, fingers jabbing towards an unseen target. You feel the collective gaze of hundreds of eyes, not on you, but directed with a terrifying, unified intensity. It's a force that pulls, that demands participation, that seeks to consume everything in its path. Someone presses a heavy, rough torch into your hand. The wood is hot, the flames dancing dangerously close to your fingers. You feel the tremor in your grip, the sudden, unsettling weight of responsibility, or perhaps complicity. You look around, seeing the wild, frenzied eyes of those around you, their faces illuminated by the dancing firelight, contorted by a raw, unthinking fervor. Their breath comes in ragged gasps, their chests heaving with an almost religious zeal. The sheer scale of their fear, their conviction, is overwhelming. You feel the pressure to shout, to join the chorus, to become one with the roar. Your own heart pounds a frantic rhythm against your ribs, a drumbeat of terror and confusion. The smoke burns your lungs, the heat from the fires scorches your skin, and the collective madness of the crowd threatens to pull you under, to drown you in its suffocating grip. The line between right and wrong blurs, dissolving into a terrifying singular will. You realize that under the suffocating smoke of accusation and the deafening roar of hysteria, humanity's fragile hold on compassion can shatter, leaving behind only the terrifying, unthinking power of a terrified mob, where truth is irrelevant and survival becomes the only absolute. You step into the cavernous throne room, and the first thing that hits you is the sheer, echoing silence. It's a silence so vast it almost hums, swallowing every small sound. The polished marble floor stretches out before you, an endless expanse that reflects the faint light filtering through the tall, arched windows. Tapestries, depicting ancient battles and legendary kings, hang like silent, heavy witnesses on the immense walls, their figures seemingly staring down at the solitary figure seated on the dais. That figure is small, almost swallowed by the ornate, oversized throne. It's the child king. His feet dangle, not quite reaching the floor. A poignant detail that pulls at something within you. A rich velvet robe, clearly tailored for a man twice his size, attempts to confer majesty, but instead emphasizes his youth, his fragility. The heavy golden crown, usually a symbol of ultimate power, seems too large for his small head, a burden more than an adornment. You watch as he fidgets slightly, his small fingers tracing the carved lion's head on the armrest, a childish gesture in a decidedly unchildlike setting. The room, designed to host hundreds of advisors and petitioners, now feels like a hollow cage. There are only a few other people present, scattered far apart. A stern-faced regent by a distant window, a couple of silent guards standing like statues at the colossal doors. Their gazes are discreet, yet ever-present, like unseen strings tethering the boy to his enormous responsibility. A faint sigh escapes the child king's lips, almost lost in the vastness of the space. He shifts, and the rustle of his heavy robes sounds unnaturally loud, a lonely whisper in the immense quiet. You feel the cool air on your face, a subtle draft from the high ceilings, emphasizing the isolation. The weight of the world seems to press down on him, a palpable force that even you, standing at a respectful distance, can sense. This room isn't just a place of power. It's a silent, watchful prison, demanding an ancient wisdom from a mind barely out of childhood. He raises a small hand, adjusting the crown, pushing it slightly back from his brow, as if the weight itself has become too much to bear. The movement is quick, almost private, betraying a fleeting weariness that should never be visible in a king. You see the faint shadows beneath his eyes, the almost imperceptible tremor in his hand, and you understand the immense, crushing solitude of his position. He is a child, burdened by a crown too cold, in a room too vast, with responsibilities too heavy for any single soul, let alone one so young. The air in the king's privy chamber feels unnervingly cool, a crisp edge that sharpens every other sensation. It carries the faint, cloying scent of beeswax and old ambition, a subtle aroma that seems to cling to the heavy velvet drapes and the polished oak of the council table. Your fingers, resting lightly on the smooth, cold wood, feel the faint tremor of your own pulse. Around the table, figures are gathered. They are richly dressed, their silks and furs a deceptive veneer over sinews of steel and sharp minds. Each face is a study in controlled composure. Their eyes, however, tell a different story. They dart and flick, assessing, weighing, searching for weakness or advantage. You feel their glances pass over you like cold fingers, leaving a trail of unease. A low, almost inaudible chuckle from an older nobleman to your left sends a ripple through the quiet, and you instinctively stiffen, your guard rising. You watch the subtle shift in posture of a younger advisor across from you, his hand dropping casually to rest near the heavy embroidered pouch at his hip, perhaps where a concealed blade might lie. It's a fleeting gesture, easily missed, yet it speaks volumes in this silent game. There's a constant, unspoken dialogue happening, a dance of power played out in the flick of an eyelid, the tightening of a jaw, the almost imperceptible clenching of a hand. The child king sits at the head of the table, small and still, his eyes wide as he attempts to follow the weighty discussions. You notice the way certain advisors direct their words to him, full of deference, while their eyes, just for a moment, stray to others around the table, a challenge, a silent threat. It's like watching a chess match played with human lives, where every piece holds a hidden sting. You feel the constant pressure to read these unspoken signals, to decipher the true intent behind every polished phrase. A heavy goblet of spiced wine is offered to you. You take it, the warmth of the metal momentarily a comfort. But you sip cautiously, your senses heightened, tasting not just the wine, but the pervasive atmosphere of suspicion. A faint scratch, a tiny sound from beneath the table, makes you glance down, but there's nothing. Only the cold, solid wood, yet the sound lingers. A ghost of an unseen movement, a constant reminder of the hidden dangers. You feel the constant, almost suffocating awareness that every word, every gesture, every moment here is a meticulously calculated risk. In such a place, where loyalty is a fleeting currency and alliances are as fragile as glass, you understand that survival is not about confronting the visible enemy, but about expertly navigating the swirling, unseen currents of ambition and betrayal that constantly threaten to drag you under. The deafening clang of steel on steel assaults your ears, a relentless, jarring symphony that vibrates through the very soles of your worn boots. It's not just a sound, it's a physical force, shaking the ancient stone walls around you, rattling your teeth. You taste grit and dust in the air, a constant dry powder clinging to your tongue, mixed with the acrid scent of burning pitch, human sweat, and something coppery that you try not to identify too closely. You crouch low behind a crumbling parapet, the rough, sun-baked stone cool and abrasive against your cheek, offering meager cover from the chaos. Above you, the air whistles with unseen projectiles, a heavy, splintering thud as a massive rock, hurled by a distant trebuchet, strikes the wall nearby, sending a shower of pulverized stone raining down onto your head. You flinch, pulling your head back, feeling a sharp pebble glance off the side of your simple steel helmet, with a dull sound. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic, desperate drum that threatens to burst through your chest. Below, the ground churns with a chaotic tide of bodies. Figures in worn tunics, their faces grimed with dirt, sweat, and fear, push and shove, a desperate human tide attempting to hold a breach in the outer defenses. You see the flash of a polished sword, then the dull gleam of an axe meeting a shield, a spray of sparks momentarily illuminating the brutal dance. Shouts rise and fall, fragmented and raw, swallowed almost instantly by the overwhelming din of the battle, like individual cries against a raging storm. The sky above is streaked with vast plumes of black smoke from distant fires, raging beyond the walls, painting the horizon a desolate, angry gray that promises no morning. A soldier nearby, his eyes wide and bloodshot, his face a mask of weary determination, grunts with effort as he hoists a heavy, splintered log, adding it to a makeshift barricade already groaning under the pressure. You feel the constant, heavy tremor in the ground, as a towering siege tower slowly, inexorably, grinds closer to the battered city gates, its dark shadow creeping forward like a monstrous, unstoppable beast. The air itself feels thick with arrows, their fletchings humming a deadly tune as they arc through the smoke-filled air, some thudding into the stone near you with a sickening impact, while others find their mark with a muffled, awful sound. You grip the rough, sweat-slicked handle of your own spear, your knuckles white, the wood surprisingly warm in your trembling hands. Your muscles are coiled, tight with adrenaline, ready to move, to strike, to parry, to do whatever is needed in this brutal, unending moment. There's no time for thought, only raw, primal reaction. The holy city, once a beacon of peace and pilgrimage, is now a crucible of fire and steel, and you are caught squarely in its searing, unforgiving heat, a single, vulnerable thread in a vast, brutal tapestry of conflict. Every ragged breath feels like a victory, every strained movement a desperate, silent prayer for dawn. You understand that in the heart of such a crucible, under the constant, deafening threat of annihilation, the sacred and the savage merge into a single, terrifying truth. Here, the purest faith can only truly be measured by the raw, unyielding will to simply endure one more deafening clang, one more terrifying moment, and the desperate, burning hope for an end to the unending onslaught. The first thing you taste is dust. It coats your tongue, gritty and fine, clinging to the back of your throat with a dry, suffocating grip. Your lips are cracked, already splitting in the relentless heat, and every breath feels like drawing sandpaper into your lungs. Your throat is a raw, aching canyon, each swallow a painful, futile attempt to conjure moisture where there is none. You shuffle forward, one foot dragging after the other, the endless rhythm of the forced march, a dull throb in your weary bones. The sun beats down on your head, relentless and unforgiving, baking the very air around you. Ahead, a vast cloud of red-brown dust rises, kicked up by hundreds of weary feet, swirling and dancing like an angry spirit, obscuring the horizon. It gets into your eyes, gritty and irritating, making them burn and water, only to leave them drier than before. Your eyes, tired and sunken, scan the barren landscape, desperate for any sign of water, a glint of distant river, the darker green of a hidden spring. There is nothing, just the endless, undulating expanse of dry earth, dotted with skeletal bushes that offer no shade, no promise. The silence, when the wind momentarily stills, is broken only by the rasp of countless ragged breaths, the shuffle of feet, and the occasional muffled cough. No one speaks. Words are a luxury, too precious a commodity to waste with a throat that feels like it's slowly turning to ash. You watch the figures around you, their faces caked with dust and sweat, their eyes wide and vacant, mirroring your own exhaustion. One man stumbles, pitching forward onto his hands and knees, and a single desperate gasp escapes him before he is urged back up by a rough, indifferent hand. No sympathy is offered, none expected. Each person is a universe of their own suffering, locked in a brutal, solitary struggle. The air shimmers with the heat, distorting the figures ahead, making them appear to waver, like spirits struggling on the edge of visibility. A vague memory, a distant echo of cool, clear water flashes through your mind, a cruel torment. You try to push it away, to focus only on the next step, then the next. The strap of your meager pack digs into your shoulder, a familiar ache, but it's nothing compared to the searing, internal fire that consumes you. You feel your heartbeat, a slow, heavy drum in your chest, each beat a precious measure of dwindling strength. The craving for water isn't just physical. It's a deep, spiritual yearning, a desperate plea for a salvation that seems forever out of reach, just beyond the swirling dust. You realize that in such a barren expanse, where every drop of moisture feels like a divine miracle, the simple elemental need for water transforms from a physical craving into an overwhelming force that strips away everything else, reducing existence to the raw, unwavering will to endure, one agonizing, dusty step at a time. A hollow, erratic tapping reverberates through the grand chamber, a sound like a trapped bird beating against a gilded cage. You step carefully onto the polished stone floor, the sudden chill seeping through your thin-soled shoes, and immediately feel a knot tighten in your stomach. The air is heavy, thick with the scent of stagnant incense and something vaguely animalistic, a strange, earthy smell out of place in such opulence. Your eyes sweep across the room, noting the disarray. Priceless tapestries are askew, their rich colors muted by dust. A crystal goblet lies shattered on the floor, its sharp shards glittering malevolently in the dim light. And then you see them. The monarch. They sit hunched on a magnificent throne, its velvet cushions flattened, their regal robes rumpled and stained. A heavy, jeweled crown rests precariously on their head, slightly askew, as if it's about to tumble off at any moment. Their gaze, unfocused and distant, sweeps across the room, pausing on empty corners, as if engaged in a silent conversation with unseen figures. You watch as they lift a hand, pointing a trembling finger at nothing, a low, guttural murmur escaping their lips, completely unintelligible. The tapping sound continues, and you realize it's their foot, tapping a frantic, irregular rhythm against the throne's platform, a relentless pulse of unease. You feel a prickle of alarm, a cold dread that has nothing to do with the room's chill. A trusted advisor, usually so composed, stands a little too stiffly by the far wall, their eyes fixed on the monarch, a subtle tremor visible in their jaw. A lady-in-waiting clutches a small handkerchief to her mouth, her knuckles white, her gaze betraying a profound, weary sadness. No one dares to speak, no one dares to move too suddenly. The entire court seems to hold its breath, caught in the unpredictable currents of a mind untethered. You watch as the monarch suddenly laughs, a sharp, brittle sound that echoes strangely in the vast space, devoid of humor. Then, just as quickly, the laughter dies, replaced by a vacant stare, a profound emptiness that chills you to the bone. You feel the tension radiating from every person in the room, a collective anxiety, a silent prayer that the storm within the royal mind might, for a fleeting moment, subside. The very air feels fragile, as if a single wrong sound could shatter the delicate illusion of order. You understand that a fractured mind, especially one that wields absolute power, can turn the grandest palace into a bewildering maze, where reality itself becomes a cruel, distorted reflection, and the burden falls on everyone around to navigate its unpredictable, terrifying landscape. The low, ceaseless murmur of hushed voices fills the air, a shifting, serpentine sound that weaves through the grand corridors, clinging to the heavy tapestries and echoing softly off the cold stone walls. It's the sound of a kingdom holding its breath, and then, slowly, letting it out in 1,000 careful whispers. You feel the cool, dry air brush against your cheek, carrying with it the faint scent of anxiety mingled with expensive parchment and stale ink. You lean against a fluted column, its polished stone smooth and unnervingly cold against your palm, trying to appear nonchalant, but your senses are stretched taut. Your eyes dart, taking in the furtive glances exchanged across the cavernous antechamber, the slight, knowing nods between groups of courtiers. Every rustle of silk, every soft cough, seems freighted with unspoken meaning. The usual bustling energy of the court has been replaced by a tense, almost suffocating stillness, broken only by these insistent, dangerous whispers. A cluster of older nobles, their faces etched with a mix of concern and thinly veiled opportunism, huddle in a corner, their heads bent close. You catch fragmented words, snippets of phrases like regency, succession, divine will, each one dropping like a stone into a silent pool, sending ripples of unease through the room. You watch as a younger, ambitious duke, usually boisterous, now stands unnaturally still, his gaze fixed on the doors leading to the monarch's private chambers, his jaw clenched, his ambition a palpable force radiating from him. You feel the pressure building, a slow, inevitable crawl towards a precipice. The lack of clear, decisive command from the throne has unleashed a torrent of private agendas. Loyalties are being subtly tested. Alliances quietly forged and broken in the spaces between each breath. You see a lady in waiting, usually a fountain of gossip, now pale and drawn, her hands clasped tightly, her eyes wide with a fear that isn't about courtly intrigue, but something far more fundamental. The very air feels brittle, as if one wrong move, one loud word could shatter the fragile peace and plunge everything into chaos. You hear the distinct, almost imperceptible scrape of a heavy boot on the marble floor as a trusted captain of the guard shifts his weight, his hand resting on the pommel of his sword. His eyes, usually vigilant, now hold a flicker of deep uncertainty, a grim acknowledgment of the precipice on which the kingdom teeters. You taste the dry, bitter tang of apprehension in your own mouth, a constant reminder of the volatile ground beneath your feet. The whispers aren't just about the monarch's health. They are the very threads of power, unraveling and reweaving in a desperate, dangerous dance. You realize that when the mind at the heart of a kingdom falters, the stability of an entire world can begin to unravel, not with a bang, but with the quiet, insidious creep of whispers, each one a tiny chisel chipping away at the foundation of order, threatening to bring everything crashing down. The sharp tug on the laces makes you gasp, a sudden, involuntary intake of breath that feels immediately trapped. Your ribs protest, a dull, aching pressure that becomes a constant companion, squeezing the air from your lungs. You feel the stiff boning of the corset dig into your flesh, an unyielding embrace that molds your body into an approved, unnatural shape. Every movement becomes deliberate, a carefully choreographed dance against the invisible chains of whalebone and silk. The heavy silk of your gown, embroidered with threads of gold, rustles with a soft, expensive whisper as you try to take a deeper breath, a sound that seems to mock your constricted lungs. It's a garment designed for beauty, for display, not for comfort or ease. You feel the weight of the elaborate sleeves, the layers of petticoats, all contributing to a sensation of being wrapped, bound, encased. The opulent fabric feels cool against your skin where it touches, but the pressure around your midsection is a relentless, dull heat. You descend the grand staircase, each step a careful, measured action, the long, heavy skirt threatening to trip you if your attention wavers even for a second. The polished marble gleams beneath your tiny, jeweled slippers, its coldness a stark contrast to the internal warmth of your tightly bound body. Around you, the murmur of the court rises and falls, a constant hum of expectation and judgment. You feel the glances, discreet but penetrating, assessing your posture, your jewels, the exact tilt of your head. Every curated detail, from the pearls nestled in your hair to the rigid line of your back, is under silent scrutiny. You offer a small, practiced smile to a passing nobleman, the muscles in your face feeling strangely stiff, unaccustomed to the effort required to appear perfectly composed. It's a smile that doesn't quite reach your eyes, which feel heavy, tired from the constant vigilance. The air in the grand hall is thick, with the scent of lilies and expensive perfumes, cloying and heavy, and you find yourself struggling to draw enough oxygen past the constriction to truly savor or even hate it. You try to sit, carefully, on a plush velvet chair, feeling the rigid boning of your corset protest against the curve of your spine. It's impossible to truly relax, to simply sink into the softness. You remain perched, upright, a living statue designed for ornamental display. The conversation around you flows like a river of polite superficiality, each word carefully chosen, each gesture rehearsed. You feel the unspoken rules of this gilded cage, pressing in, not just on your body but on your thoughts, your very spirit. The physical discomfort is a constant, tangible reminder of the larger, unseen limits that define your existence. You understand that sometimes the most beautiful prisons are the ones crafted from silk and gold, where the bars are invisible expectations and the chains are made of etiquette, leaving you encased in a role, magnificent to behold, but aching for the simple, unburdened freedom of a single deep breath. The heavy, sweet scent of jasmine and sandalwood hangs in the air, a cloying perfume that seems to mask a deeper, more sinister odor. You feel the plush velvet of the cushion beneath you, the rich fabric soft against your skin, but it offers no real comfort. Your hand, adorned with delicate rings, hovers over a crystal goblet, its polished surface reflecting the flickering candlelight in 1,000 tiny distorted stars. Inside, the wine gleams, a deep, inviting ruby red. A low, resonant voice, smooth as aged brandy, drifts from the figure seated across from you. Their eyes, dark and assessing, hold yours, a subtle challenge in their depths. There's a faint, almost imperceptible curl at the corner of their lips, a hint of a smile that doesn't quite reach their eyes, a dangerous glimmer. You feel the intricate lacework of your sleeve brush against the cold metal of the serving tray, and your senses are on high alert. You watch as a servant, his face impassive, pours the wine with a practiced, steady hand. A bead of liquid clings to the rim of the goblet, catching the light for a moment before dropping silently into the dark pool below. The gesture is outwardly normal, routine, yet in this hushed, intimate setting it feels imbued with immense tension. The air between you and the other figure crackles, a silent current of unspoken intentions, of hidden desires, and of very real, unspoken threats. Your gaze returns to the goblet. The wine appears flawless, its surface undisturbed, but a tiny, almost invisible speck floats just beneath the surface, a dark pinprick against the ruby liquid. You feel a sudden, cold knot in your stomach, a chilling certainty that makes your breath catch in your throat. Is it merely a flaw in the glass? A stray piece of dust? Or something far more insidious, carefully placed, waiting? You lift the goblet slowly, your fingers steady despite the frantic pounding of your heart against your ribs. The rim feels cool against your parched lips. You inhale, catching the faint, fruity aroma of the wine. But beneath it, you perceive a subtle, bitter note, an almost chemical whisper that sends a shiver down your spine. Your eyes meet the other figures once more. Their smile widens, just a fraction, a silent dare. You feel the weight of their gaze, pressing you, urging you. The dance of seduction and survival is a delicate, deadly waltz, and every sip, every hesitation, is a step in a game with the highest possible stakes. You feel the burning uncertainty, the profound, terrifying choice that hangs in the balance. You understand that in a world where smiles can hide daggers, and generosity can be a prelude to betrayal, every shared cup, every offered courtesy, becomes a perilous test. And the most dangerous poison isn't always the one that burns the throat, but the one that lingers unseen, destroying trust and ultimately life itself. The first thing that hits you is the sound. A deep, guttural roar that seems to rise from the very earth itself, shaking the cold stone beneath your feet. It's not a human sound, not entirely. It's the collective cry of hundreds, perhaps thousands, of desperate voices, an angry, surging beast. You taste the sudden fear, a metallic tang in your mouth, as your heart begins to hammer against your ribs, a frantic, insistent drum. You press closer to the embrasure, the cold, rough stone digging into your cheek, and peer through the narrow slit. Below, the castle gates, usually an imposing symbol of power, now look impossibly fragile. A churning sea of bodies surges against them, a dark, chaotic tide. Their faces, pale and gaunt, are contorted by a raw, unbridled rage, illuminated by the flickering light of hastily lit torches. You see crude weapons, pitchforks, axes, even rocks, wielded with terrifying purpose. The air is thick with the acrid scent of sweat and desperation, mingled with the distant, faint smell of burning wood. You hear the rhythmic thud of a battering ram, a monstrous heartbeat echoing the fury of the crowd, as it slams again and again into the reinforced oak. Each impact sends a jolt through the very foundations of the castle, a physical manifestation of the relentless pressure. Shouts of "bread and justice" rise from the mob, sharp and piercing, quickly swallowed by the overwhelming roar, only to emerge again, louder, more insistent. Your hands, gripped tightly to the cold stone sill, are trembling. You feel the vibration of the ground, the deep, resonant tremor that speaks of an unstoppable force. A guard beside you, his face grim and pale beneath his helmet, tightens his grip on his crossbow, his knuckles white. His eyes are wide not with fear alone, but with a profound, weary understanding of the storm raging below. No one speaks. There are no words to match this primal scream of a voiceless people finally finding their collective voice. You watch as figures at the front of the mob begin to climb the outer walls, their forms like ants scaling a giant, their desperation giving them a terrifying, unnatural strength. A shower of stones and arrows rains down from above, but it seems to have little effect, only further fueling the roaring anger. The sheer overwhelming number of them, their unified, single-minded purpose, is a terrifying sight. You feel the cold dread creep up your spine, a chilling realization that the walls, built for centuries to keep enemies out, are now besieged by their own people. The roar outside is not just noise, It's the sound of an entire world tearing itself apart. You realize that when the silence of the oppressed breaks, it unleashes a force more powerful than any army, a raw, elemental scream that can shake the foundations of even the strongest castles, reminding you that true power ultimately resides not in gilded thrones, but in the collective, desperate will of the people. The heavy, metallic clang rings in your ears, a deafening sound that vibrates deep in your jaw, followed instantly by the sickening crunch of wood against hardened steel. You're pushed forward, almost stumbling, into the chaotic maelstrom, the muddy ground slick beneath your worn leather boots. The air is a violent cocktail of human sweat, the sharp tang of fear, and the metallic scent of fresh blood, all swirling amidst the acrid smoke from distant fires. Your eyes, wide and darting, fix on the scene unfolding directly before you. A knight, a towering figure encased in gleaming, intricate armor, stands like a pillar of unforgiving metal. His helmet, emblazoned with a proud crest, reflects the frantic torchlight in a distorting shimmer. Against him, a rebel, gaunt and desperate, wields a crude, three-pronged pitchfork, its tines sharpened roughly, but clearly no match for the plate. You see the rebel swing, a desperate, wild arc, fueled by raw frustration and a gnawing hunger. The pitchfork handle, splintered and rough, connects with the knight's breastplate with a harsh, grating scrape, then slides off with a shriek of metal, the impact jarring the rebel's arms. The knight barely flinches, the heavy steel absorbing the blow with contemptuous ease. He raises his own sword, a polished, deadly blade that seems to hum with dark intent, and you feel the collective gasp of those around you, a wave of dread washing over the surging crowd. A spray of mud and grit kicks up as another rebel, younger and quicker, ducks under the knight's reach, attempting to jab with a farming scythe. The dull steel of the scythe clangs uselessly against the knight's greave, a jarring, hollow sound that speaks of impotence. The knight responds with a swift, brutal kick, and the younger rebel is sent sprawling, landing heavily in the mud with a pained grunt, quickly lost to the press of bodies. You feel the tremor in your own hands, the desperate helplessness of witnessing such an unequal struggle. The roiling mass of bodies around you pushes relentlessly, each person a frantic wave in a hopeless ocean. You notice the knight's breathing, a deep, rhythmic rasp from behind his visor, an almost mechanical sound of controlled exertion. His movements, though burdened by the weight of his armor, are precise, efficient, deadly. In stark contrast, the rebels are a flurry of ragged, frantic energy, their crude tools flailing, their eyes wide with a desperate resolve that is slowly giving way to terror. A splinter from a broken axe handle skitters across the mud near your foot, a small, inconsequential piece of wood, yet it feels like a symbol of the fragile, brittle nature of their uprising. You feel the cold, hard despair beginning to set in, a creeping realization that courage, however fierce, might not be enough against walls of steel and centuries of training. The sound of the pitchfork clanging yet again against the unyielding armor becomes a mournful, defiant beat, a testament to a struggle that is more about raw will than any hope of victory. You realize that sometimes, in the face of insurmountable odds, the true measure of a person isn't whether they win or lose, but the sheer, defiant, and agonizing choice to stand, to strike, even with a splintered tool, against an unyielding wall of steel, knowing full well the outcome. A sharp, acrid fume, like burnt sugar and crushed minerals, immediately assaults your nostrils as you step into the cramped, low-ceilinged chamber. It clings to the damp stone walls, dances in the flickering light of numerous oil lamps, and makes your eyes sting. The air is thick with it, tasting faintly metallic on your tongue, and you instinctively want to cough, but you suppress it. Ahead, an old man, his hands stained with unknown pigments, bends over a bubbling retort, its glass curves reflecting the erratic flames of a small charcoal furnace. Strange instruments, gleaming copper tubes, stoppered flasks filled with swirling colored liquids, clutter a rough wooden table. The rhythmic glug-glug of a distilling concoction and the soft hiss of steam are the only sounds in the stifling room, a bizarre symphony of desperate craft. You feel the heat from the furnace radiate outwards, a dry, oppressive warmth that makes your skin prickle with sweat, clinging uncomfortably to your tunic. He straightens slowly, his back stiff, and turns towards you. His eyes, deep-set and weary, hold a profound, knowing sadness, but also a flicker of something else, a fragile, almost defiant hope. In his gnarled hand, he holds a small, opaque vial. The liquid inside is a murky, dark green, almost black, and it seems to absorb the light rather than reflect it. You feel your heart begin to pound, a slow, heavy drum against your ribs. This is it. The last resort. The uncertain gamble. He offers the vial without a word, his gaze unwavering. You reach for it, your hand trembling almost imperceptibly as your fingers brush against the cool, smooth glass. The vial feels impossibly light, yet its contents carry the weight of everything you hold dear. You bring it closer, and the bitter, earthy scent of strange, potent herbs rises from the dark liquid, a smell that promises both salvation and potential suffering. Your throat is suddenly dry, constricted, making the act of swallowing seem daunting, almost impossible. You raise the vial to your lips, feeling the grainy texture of the stopper against them. There's a moment of hesitation, a silent internal battle between fear and a desperate, burning need. Then, you tilt your head back and pour. The liquid is thick, coating your tongue with an immediate, overwhelming bitterness that makes your jaw clench. It's an acrid, burning taste, like 1,000 ancient roots ground to dust, mixed with a faint, metallic aftertaste that makes your stomach churn. You swallow hard, feeling the fiery draft slide down your throat, a hot, unwelcome presence. A shiver runs through your entire body, a sudden, violent tremor that leaves you momentarily weak. You cough, a harsh, rattling sound that feels like tearing tissue in your chest. Your eyes water, not from tears, but from the visceral reaction. The alchemist watches, still and silent, his face a canvas of quiet intensity. You stand there, feeling the lingering bitterness on your tongue, the lingering heat in your gut, and the profound, agonizing uncertainty of what comes next. You realize that in the darkest hours, when all other paths are closed, the human spirit clings to even the bitterest taste of hope, accepting its discomfort, enduring its burn, in the desperate, unwavering belief that somewhere, within its potent depths, lies the fragile promise of a new dawn. A thin, metallic scent, like old iron mixed with dried ink and aged parchment, hangs heavy in the air, clinging to your clothes and burning faintly in your nostrils. You lean closer to the ancient tome, its leather-bound cover rough and cracked beneath your fingertips. the faint chill of the stone chamber seeping into your bones. Here, in the flickering, uncertain glow of a hidden oil lamp, the world outside shrinks away, replaced by the hushed, intense universe of forbidden knowledge. Your eyes, strained from the dim light, trace the delicate hand-drawn symbols and intricate diagrams that fill the brittle, yellowed pages. They pulse with a strange, silent energy, a dangerous beauty. The script is complex, unlike anything taught in public schools, hinting at geometries and alchemies whispered only in shadows. You feel the weight of centuries of secrecy in the very paper, a tangible sense of taboo, a fine dust, smelling of forgotten things and potent truths, coats your fingers as you turn another page, each rustle unnaturally loud in the profound silence. Suddenly, a faint scraping sound from the corridor outside makes your breath catch in your throat. Your head snaps up, every muscle in your body tensing, poised to freeze. Your heart begins to pound a frantic, suffocating rhythm against your ribs, threatening to betray your presence. You quickly slide the heavy book closed, the thud of its cover echoing like a gunshot in the oppressive quiet. A bead of cold sweat trickles down your temple, a stark contrast to the burning intensity behind your eyes. You wait, absolutely still, listening to the strained silence, trying to discern if the sound was just the wind, or something far more perilous. The air now feels charged with an unseen presence, the threat of discovery palpable. The faint scent of the lamp's oil seems to magnify the awareness of your own vulnerability, your defiance. You feel the cool, polished surface of a concealed compartment beneath the table, a familiar refuge for these dangerous texts. The scratching sound doesn't return. Slowly, cautiously, your muscles still coiled tight, you let out a silent breath, a long, trembling exhale that feels like a physical release. Your gaze sweeps across the small, illicit workspace, a crude, hand-drawn map of the constellations, an array of polished stones and strangely shaped instruments, each one a testament to questions deemed unholy. You feel the irresistible pull of the unknown, the fierce, burning curiosity that drives you despite the chilling, ever-present threat. The lure of understanding, of uncovering the hidden truths of the universe, is a potent, dangerous drug in an age where faith alone is permitted to illuminate the world. You understand that to seek knowledge beyond the accepted truths, especially in such a time, is to walk a perilous tightrope between revelation and ruin, where every flicker of illumination carries the risk of igniting a devastating, unholy fire. The air is heavy and cold, thick with the scent of damp stone and a pervasive, lingering fear. You're huddled deep within the castle's keep, the ancient walls around you groaning under an unseen, relentless assault. A low, rhythmic tremor runs through the very bedrock beneath your feet, a constant, unsettling pulse that sends shivers up your spine and rattles the loose stones in the ceiling. It's the trebuchet, a monstrous heartbeat of destruction, methodically pounding the outer defenses. With each deep, shuddering thud, a fine powder of ancient dust rains down from the ceiling, gritty and bitter on your tongue. The oil lamps flicker wildly, casting erratic, dancing shadows that seem to stretch and distort the grim faces of those huddled around you. You hear the muffled cries of children, quickly hushed by weary mothers, their fear a palpable presence in the suffocating gloom. The stench of stale sweat and unwashed bodies hangs heavy, a collective testament to days and nights spent in terror. You press your palm flat against the cold, rough stone wall, feeling the powerful vibrations travel through it, directly into your hand. It's a force that seems to threaten to tear the very castle apart, brick by agonizing brick. Above the constant tremor, you can just discern the distant metallic shriek of battle, the clash of steel, the muffled shouts, sounds that hint at the desperate, brutal struggle unfolding just beyond these thick walls. Your heart hammers against your ribs, a frantic, insistent drumbeat that mirrors the rhythm of the siege. A veteran soldier, his face etched with grim resignation, tightens the grip on his sword, his eyes fixed on the distant, heavy wooden door, a silent sentinel against the chaos. His expression is unreadable, a mixture of exhaustion and grim determination. You watch a small trickle of water, cold and slow, seep from a crack in the wall, running down the stone face like a silent tear. Each minute feels like an eternity, each distant thud of the trebuchet a countdown to an unknown fate. The air in the keep feels strangely thin, as if the very breath of the besieged is being slowly, relentlessly squeezed from them. You close your eyes for a moment, trying to block out the constant tremor, the oppressive darkness, but the sensation of being trapped, utterly vulnerable, remains. The heavy, resonant impacts from outside are a constant physical reminder of the relentless assault, the unforgiving pressure. You feel the cold seep into your bones, a chilling awareness of the precariousness of your sanctuary, and the overwhelming power of the forces determined to breach it. You realize that under the unyielding pressure of a long siege, when the very ground beneath you is shaking, the concept of safety becomes a fragile illusion, and hope itself can feel like a distant, flickering lamp in an ever-darkening, terrifying night. The scent of damp earth and stale air does little to mask the constant, metallic tang of hunger that coats your tongue. You're huddled against the cold stone, every inch of your body screaming for warmth, for sustenance, a deep, pervasive ache that has long surpassed simple discomfort. The muffled sounds of the siege outside have become a dull background hum, overshadowed by the louder, more insistent symphony of your own protesting stomach. Your eyes, tired and heavy, drift across the small, dim chamber. Figures are huddled, shivering, some curled into tight balls, others staring blankly at the rough-hewn floor. There's a profound, isolating silence among them, broken only by a shallow cough, a quiet whimper from a child. Each person is an island of private suffering, yet bound by the same ravenous, unspoken need. You feel the cold seep into your bones, a physical manifestation of the empty space within you. On a crude wooden crate in the center, a single dried apple slice rests. It's shriveled, almost translucent, barely larger than your thumb. Yet it gleams in the flickering lamplight like a precious jewel, an impossible beacon of hope. Every eye in the room is drawn to it, a silent, almost predatory focus that makes the air crackle with unspoken tension. You feel your own gaze locked onto it, your throat suddenly constricting, a fresh wave of longing washing over you that feels almost painful. A pair of hands, thin and trembling, reaches slowly for the apple slice. Every muscle in your body tenses, and you hold your breath, along with everyone else. The hands, belonging to an older woman, pause, hesitating for an agonizing moment. You watch her eyes, deeply sunken, as she looks around, meeting gaze after gaze, a silent, profound understanding passing between them. Then, with a slow, deliberate movement, she carefully, meticulously, tears the small, precious piece in half. The soft rip of the dried fruit sounds unnaturally loud in the profound silence. She hands one half to a small child beside her, whose tiny fingers close around it with an almost desperate reverence. The child doesn't eat it immediately. Instead, they clutch it, simply looking at it, as if its mere presence offers a form of comfort. You feel a strange mix of relief and a sharp, aching jealousy. The act of sharing, born of unimaginable deprivation, is a testament to something fragile yet enduring. You watch as the child slowly brings the morsel to their lips, a painstaking process of savoring. The scent, faint and sweet, of dried apple momentarily fills the air around them, a cruel taunt to your own burning emptiness. You feel the dull ache in your stomach, a constant companion that has grown into a part of you, but now it's mixed with the crushing weight of witnessing such raw, desperate humanity. The last morsel isn't just food. It's a profound, agonizing symbol of both enduring love and the relentless, isolating cruelty of starvation. You realize that under the grinding weight of starvation and the suffocating blanket of isolation, even the smallest act of sharing, the most minuscule piece of sustenance, can carry an immense psychological burden, revealing both the depths of human despair and the unwavering, heartbreaking resilience of the spirit. The scent of damp stone, cold and cloying, is the first thing that envelops you, thick and pervasive, filling your nostrils and clinging to your clothes. It's the smell of a forgotten tomb, of slow decay, and of profound loneliness. You stand in a small circular chamber, the rough, uneven floor pressing up against your worn boots, the air heavy and still, trapping every whisper of silence. Your eyes, accustomed to the grand halls of palaces, struggle to adapt to the oppressive gloom. A single narrow slit of a window high above offers only a meager sliver of weak, gray light, enough to reveal the crudely carved marks on the walls. Tally marks, desperate scratches, silent screams etched by hands long past. The walls themselves weep with moisture, a constant sheen of cold dampness that makes the space feel perpetually chilling. You reach out, touching the rough, cold stone, feeling its unyielding, ancient indifference. In the center of the room, a figure sits huddled on a low, wooden stool. It's the queen, but the regal bearing, the vibrant silks, the glittering jewels, they are gone. Her once magnificent gown is now a simple, coarse wool, rumpled and stained, the fabric clinging to her gaunt frame. Her hair, once intricately coiffed, now hangs in lank, unkempt strands around her shoulders. She looks up as you approach. Her eyes, once sharp and commanding, now hold a profound, desolate emptiness, a vacant stare that chills you to the bone. She doesn't speak, doesn't react, simply continues to stare at some unseen point on the wall. Her hands, once accustomed to signing decrees and accepting homage, are clasped loosely in her lap, their skin pale and thin. You feel the crushing weight of her despair, a palpable presence that makes the air feel even heavier. The silence in the tower room isn't peaceful. It's a living, breathing entity, a suffocating blanket woven from betrayal and isolation. A small, dried crust of bread lies on the floor near her foot, ignored, a stark reminder of the basic needs stripped away. You hear the faint, distant clang of a guard's armor from somewhere far below, a sound that underscores her confinement, her absolute powerlessness. The cold dampness of the tower seems to seep not just into her clothes, but into her very spirit, extinguishing all spark. This isn't just a prison. It's a living tomb, a monument to the fleeting nature of power and the brutal sting of treachery. You realize that even the highest throne can fall, and when it does, the descent into the cold, damp despair of betrayal can be more profound, more agonizing than any physical wound, stripping away not just power, but identity itself. The bitter taste of dust and stale fear is a constant presence on your tongue, mingling with the metallic tang of dried sweat. You stand on cold, hard flagstones, your bare feet aching, the chill seeping upwards into your bones. The air is heavy, thick with the scent of unwashed bodies, unlit torches, and the faint, unsettling aroma of damp straw. It's the smell of a forgotten, dismal place, a holding cell in the depths of a grim prison. Your eyes, weary from sleepless nights, slowly adjust to the profound gloom, punctuated by the occasional flicker of a distant, unseen lamp. Rough-hewn walls rise around you, scarred with the desperate scrawls of countless lost souls. Each mark, each half-formed word, is a silent scream of injustice, an echo of despair. You reach out, your fingers brushing against the cold, slimy stone, feeling the dampness of despair clinging to everything. Then, the heavy grate of a bolt being drawn back, the loud, metallic screech of an ancient door groaning open. The sound reverberates through the small space, each echo seeming to amplify the sense of impending doom. A shaft of weak, gray light, tinged with yellow smoke, briefly illuminates the doorway, silhouetting two figures. They are cloaked, their faces shadowed, their presence radiating an impersonal, unyielding authority. You feel a sudden, violent lurch in your stomach, a cold wave of dread washing over you. They don't speak, but one extends a hand, gesturing for you to follow. Your legs feel like lead, heavy and unwilling, but something compels you to move. Each step sends a dull ache through your joints, a physical manifestation of the immense psychological weight pressing down on you. You pass through the doorway, feeling the rough hand of a guard on your arm, guiding you forward, a touch devoid of comfort, only control. Ahead, a voice, deep and resonant, booms from an unseen hall, echoing off distant walls. It's a voice you recognize, a voice that once promised justice, but now it carries the chilling ring of predetermined judgment. The words themselves are muffled, indistinct, but their overall tone, their rhythm is unmistakable. It's the sound of accusation, of condemnation, of a truth already decided, regardless of any evidence you might offer. You feel the profound helplessness, the chilling realization that your fate has already been sealed. You taste the salt of unshed tears on your lips, the metallic tang of an anguish too deep for crying. You are a pawn in a game you never chose to play, your role meticulously scripted by forces far beyond your control. The echoes of that unseen voice, announcing your false accusation, resonate in the very marrow of your bones, a chilling, inescapable soundtrack to your descent into an unjust destiny. You realize that in the face of a predetermined fate, when the very structure of justice is corrupted, the most terrifying weapon is not a sword, but the echo of a false accusation, a whisper that can steal your future, your freedom, and even your very identity, leaving you utterly helpless against its crushing, relentless weight. The first thing that hits you is the smell. It's a profound, suffocating stench of human waste, vomit, stale sweat, and sickness. A hot, cloying blanket that invades your nostrils, burning the back of your throat. You try to gasp for air, but there is no fresh air, only this thick, nauseating miasma, tasting metallic and acrid on your tongue. You are pressed against rough, splintered wood, chained in place, the cold, unyielding iron biting into your skin, a constant, physical reminder of your captivity. The utter darkness is absolute, a heavy, suffocating shroud that has replaced the sun, the sky, and every familiar sight. Your eyes are wide open, but they see nothing, only the inky blackness that stretches endlessly around you. It's a darkness that breeds fear, that distorts every sound, that magnifies every agonizing sensation. Around you, the hold is alive with sound. It's a symphony of despair. The low, guttural moans of men, the choked sobs of women, the faint, desperate whimpers of children. You hear the ceaseless, rhythmic creak and groan of the ship's timbers. A living, breathing beast that pitches and rolls beneath you with an unpredictable violence. Waves crash against the hull, a thunderous roar that seems to mock your confinement, while the constant rattle and scrape of chains from countless unseen bodies weaves through it all. The floor beneath you lurches with every swell, tossing your body against the hot, damp skin of others. You are one piece in a brutal, living puzzle, bodies crammed so close that individual breath is a luxury. You feel the tremor of exhaustion in your limbs, the raw, chafed skin where the chains bite, the overwhelming weakness that has settled deep into your bones. Thirst gnaws at your throat, a raw, burning canyon, while hunger becomes a dull, constant ache that overshadows everything else, even the fear. You reach out blindly, your fingers brushing against another arm, then another, feeling the desperate heat of skin, the sharp jut of bone. There's a faint, desperate scratching sound nearby, a futile attempt to mark time, to leave a trace. A sound quickly swallowed by the cacophony. You try to speak, but your throat is too dry, too raw, and the words, if they ever formed, would be swallowed by the crushing weight of the hold. This isn't just a space, it's a living nightmare, a sensory overload in utter darkness, and you are trapped within its suffocating embrace, utterly powerless, utterly lost. You realize that in the face of such overwhelming dehumanization, where every sensation screams of loss and despair, the human spirit, however fragile, still clings to the faintest spark of itself, a stubborn, primal refusal to be utterly consumed by the darkness. The metallic clink of chains is a constant, grinding symphony in your ears, a sound that has long replaced birdsong, wind, or human laughter. It's not just a sound, it's a physical sensation, vibrating through the cold, rough iron that bites into your ankle, an unyielding embrace that has become a part of your very being. You taste the bitter tang of rust and desperation, a flavor that lingers in your mouth like a permanent stain. You try to shift to alleviate the pressure on your raw, chafed skin, and the chains respond with a dull scrape against the splintered wood beneath you, another mournful clink joining the chorus. Each movement, no matter how small, is a painful reminder of your confinement, of the freedom that has been brutally stripped away. The darkness around you is absolute, thick, and suffocating, magnifying every other sense, particularly the endless, soul-crushing sound of iron. Around you, the hold is a canvas of misery, painted in sound. You hear the soft, rhythmic drag of other chains, a collective lament, as unseen bodies attempt to find a moment's less agonizing position. There are low moans, caught somewhere between a sigh and a sob, and the shallow, desperate breaths of those too weak to cry out. The oppressive stench of waste and sickness is a constant, nauseating presence, mixing with the metallic tang of sweat and fear, pressing in on you from all sides. You reach out a hand blindly, and your fingers brush against another chain, then another, feeling their cold, heavy links. They are a network, connecting countless individuals into a single, suffering mass, binding bodies and spirits alike. You feel the tremor in your own hand, a weakness born of hunger and despair, but also a profound, unsettling knowledge that this isn't just your burden, it's shared, a collective weight of inhumanity pressed upon every single soul in this dark, suffocating space. The ship groans and creaks around you, a massive, living coffin, its timbers protesting with every roll and pitch of the relentless ocean. The clink of chains, however, remains constant, an unwavering beat against the greater sounds of the sea. It's the sound of lost identity, of stolen futures, of dignity ground into dust. It's the sound of a promise broken, of a world irrevocably altered. You feel its echoes deep within you, a chilling understanding of the profound, lasting scars this brutal rhythm will leave long after the iron is removed. You realize that the clink of chains isn't just a physical sound, it's the mournful, ceaseless rhythm of lost freedom, a stark and brutal reminder that humanity's capacity for cruelty can cast the darkest, most enduring shadow, etching itself not just on the body, but on the very soul, a burden that resonates far beyond the confines of a ship's hold. The scent of damp earth and stale, recycled air immediately hits you, thick and oppressive, filling your lungs with a cold, musty sensation. You're pressed shoulder to shoulder with silent figures in a cramped, subterranean chamber, the rough stone walls cool against your back. A single, guttering tallow candle on a makeshift stand casts long, dancing shadows, making every face a mask of flickering light and profound shadow. The air feels heavy, not just with moisture, but with a palpable, shared tension, a silent, vibrating hum of unspoken fear and forbidden curiosity. Your eyes, accustomed to the deep gloom, are fixed on the speaker. He stands slightly elevated on an overturned crate, his face gaunt, his eyes burning with an intense, almost feverish conviction. His voice is a low murmur, careful, yet it carries an undeniable force, reaching into the hushed corners of the room. It's not loud, but every word resonates, a tremor in the stillness. You feel the collective intake of breath from those around you, a soft, almost imperceptible rustle of rough cloth as people lean in, desperate to catch every dangerous syllable. He gestures with a trembling hand, his movements sharp, punctuated. He speaks of ancient texts, of interpretations deemed heretical, of truths hidden and twisted by authority. A faint, almost bitter taste rises in your mouth, a mix of apprehension and the intoxicating pull of these forbidden ideas. You feel the thrill of intellectual defiance, mingled with the chilling knowledge of the immense peril. A woman next to you, her face etched with a mix of awe and terror, clutches a small, worn crucifix to her chest, her knuckles white, her gaze never leaving the speaker. The words weave a dangerous tapestry, each phrase a thread pulled taut across a chasm. He challenges established doctrines, questions the very foundations of the world as you know it. You feel your own thoughts stir, ideas awakening that you've long suppressed, concepts that have only dared to whisper in the darkest corners of your mind. There's a sudden, almost imperceptible shift in the air, a collective flinch as he pronounces a particularly damning statement, one that, if overheard beyond these walls, would mean certain death. You feel a prickle of cold sweat trace a path down your temple. You hear the faint, distant sound of boots on the cobblestones above, a familiar, everyday noise that, in this moment, in this hidden space, feels like the heavy tread of destiny. Every muscle in your body tenses, and you instinctively hold your breath, your heart thudding violently against your ribs. The speaker pauses, his gaze sweeping across the shadowed faces, acknowledging the shared risk, the profound, unyielding dedication to these dangerous words. The quiet tension stretches, fragile and electric, a silent acknowledgement that every moment here is a gamble, every shared thought, a profound act of rebellion. You realize that in an age where conformity is demanded and dissent is met with the cruelest retribution, the simple act of listening to forbidden words, of questioning the unquestionable, becomes a dangerous, intoxicating act of courage, capable of igniting a fire in the mind that, once sparked, can never truly be extinguished, no matter the cost. The acrid, choking scent of burning paper and leather immediately assails your nostrils, sharp and metallic, clinging to the back of your throat. It's a bitter, suffocating smell, unlike any other fire, a specific tang of knowledge turning to ash. You try to gasp for fresh air, but the very atmosphere is thick with it, stinging your eyes and making them water. You stand at the edge of the market square, the rough cobblestones cold beneath your worn boots, watching the scene unfold with a horrifying, mesmerized stillness. In the center, a towering bonfire blazes, its hungry flames licking skyward, casting long, erratic shadows that dance across the grim, unsmiling faces of the crowd. Into this inferno, figures in dark robes, their faces hidden by cowls, systematically toss armfuls of books. You hear the dry, crackling pop as parchment curls and blackens, the soft hiss as leather covers shrivel and warp. Each sound is a small, agonizing death, a whisper of centuries of thought and discovery being consumed. You see the faint glint of gold leaf, the rich hues of illuminated manuscripts, vanish in an instant, devoured by the relentless orange and red. It's not just objects burning. It feels like memory, like history itself, is being fed to the flames. The heat from the bonfire is intense, scorching your exposed skin, making your face prickle with sweat, yet you cannot look away. Around you, the crowd is silent, save for a few hushed murmurs, a collective breath held in a tense equilibrium between fear and morbid fascination. You notice a young woman next to you, her head bowed, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles are white, a silent, desperate prayer on her lips. A tear streaks a clean path through the grime on her cheek, a poignant testament to unseen grief. You feel a profound sense of loss, a chilling emptiness in your chest, as you watch the columns of smoke rise, carrying the vestiges of forbidden ideas higher and higher, dissipating into the gray, indifferent sky. Yet even as the flames devour the physical forms, something else stirs within the silent observers. You feel a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in the atmosphere, a quiet tightening of resolve. It's in the way someone clenches their jaw, the unwavering intensity in another's eyes, the almost imperceptible tremor of resistance. The destruction of these books doesn't feel like an end. it feels like a terrible fiery birth. You realize that even when ideas are physically burned, when knowledge is systematically destroyed, the human spirit's capacity for belief, for questioning, for remembering, can never truly be extinguished. Instead, it often ignites with a fierce, quiet resilience, burning brighter in the hearts and minds of those who witness the flames, transforming sorrow into a stubborn, unyielding will to protect the very truths they tried to erase. The sickening high-pitched scrape of metal on bone tears through the makeshift tent, a sound so raw and unnatural it makes your teeth clench involuntarily. You taste bile rising in your throat, sharp and bitter, a persistent nausea that threatens to overwhelm you. The air itself is thick with a cloying, metallic scent. Blood, fresh and old, iron-rich and suffocating, mingled with the acrid, earthy smell of damp straw and unwashed bodies. It's a miasma that clings to everything, burning in your nostrils, refusing to leave, creating a heavy, oppressive blanket around you. You stand pressed against a rough, splintered wooden pole, your knuckles white from gripping it, trying desperately to steady your trembling body. The ground beneath your worn, mud-caked boots is soft and uneven, a churned mire of bloodied straw and dark, sticky earth, occasionally squelching with something wet and sickeningly soft. Around you, other wounded men lie strewn on stretched hides and coarse blankets, their faces pale and drawn, etched with exhaustion and profound pain. Some moan softly, a low, guttural chorus of suffering, while others stare with wide, vacant eyes at the canvas roof, their own agony a dull echo to the sharp horror unfolding before you, their pain somehow making the tent feel smaller, more confining. In the flickering, lurid yellow glow of a few sputtering tallow lamps, a surgeon, his leather apron stiff and dark with countless dried stains, works with a grim, almost detached intensity. His tools lie haphazardly on a blood-soaked cloth beside him, gleaming, wickedly sharp knives, hooked forceps that glint malevolently, and then the saw, that monstrous, heavy, serrated blade, now pulling back and forth relentlessly against the shattered limb of a screaming soldier. The soldier's muffled cries are hoarse, raw, quickly devolving into guttural, animalistic sounds, his body thrashing against the thick, tightly cinched leather straps that bind him to the crude operating table, straining against every buckle with desperate, futile strength. You feel the deep tremor in the rough planks beneath your feet, a visceral vibration from his desperate struggle, a resonant echo of his agony. A thick, coppery mist seems to hang suspended in the humid air around the operating table, shimmering eerily in the flickering lamplight, catching the beads of sweat on the surgeon's brow. You watch his movements, precise and brutally efficient, his brow furrowed in concentration, his jaw tight with strain. He pauses for a brief, agonizing moment, wipes his brow with the back of a bloody hand, then resumes, the grating sound picking up its relentless, sickening rhythm once more, each stroke deeper, more agonizing than the last. Each pull of the saw feels like it's cutting into your own flesh, a phantom pain that makes your stomach churn violently, threatening to empty its meager contents. You see a sickening glint of white bone, then hear a sharp, wet crack, an almost audible snap, and the saw finally pulls free with a heavy thud as it hits the bloody cloth. A collective, shuddering exhale goes through the entire tent, a shared release of breath from those witnessing the horror. a fragile moment of respite from the unbearable tension. The soldier's screams subside to weak, ragged gasps, his body now utterly limp, spent, hanging heavy in the straps. His eyes, though, remain wide open, staring sightlessly at the stained canvas roof, reflecting the dull lamplight. A heavy, damp cloth, dark with grime and some pungent liquid, is pressed quickly to his face, cutting off his sight, his voice, his immediate world. You feel a profound, cold emptiness settle in your chest, a grim, chilling understanding of the sheer brutality required for survival in such a world, a stark testament to the agonizing choices made. The air in the cramped chamber is stale and heavy, thick with the smell of old blood, unwashed linen, and the distinct greasy scent of burning tallow. You shiver, pulling your threadbare tunic tighter, but the chill that seeps into your bones is more than just the cold of the midnight hour. It's the cold dread of what unfolds before you. A single tallow candle, stuck precariously in a puddle of its own melted wax, casts a small, flickering circle of pale yellow light, struggling against the encroaching darkness. Its feeble glow illuminates a scene of grim, focused intensity. You watch the barber surgeon, his face deeply etched with lines of exhaustion, his hands stained dark with dried fluids, working with a terrifying, almost mechanical precision. His brow is furrowed, beads of sweat glistening on his skin in the candlelight. He doesn't look up, doesn't acknowledge your presence, his entire being concentrated on the task at hand. On a crude wooden table, a patient lies still, their face a mask of pallor, their breath coming in shallow, ragged gasps. You can hear the faint, rhythmic rasp of their breathing, a fragile counterpoint to the quiet scrape of metal and the soft, fleshy squelch of the surgeon's work. The tools on a nearby cloth glint dully, a polished knife, a pair of sharp-nosed pliers, a needle threaded with coarse twine. Each one seems to hum with a silent, menacing energy in the flickering light. You instinctively press a hand to your mouth, fighting down a wave of nausea. The air itself seems to vibrate with unspoken pain, with the desperate hope and silent fear of those present. The surgeon hums a low, tuneless melody under his breath, a strange, almost soothing contrast to the brutal reality of his actions. You watch his hands, moving with a practiced economy, each gesture deliberate, efficient, devoid of hesitation. He lifts his head briefly, eyes narrowed in concentration, and the faint light catches a single, tiny splash of dark fluid on his cheek. He wipes it away with the back of a hand, barely breaking his rhythm. The shadows around the small circle of light seem to press in, vast and hungry, threatening to swallow the grim scene whole. The candle flame dances, its light momentarily strengthening, then dimming, making the figures appear to flicker at the edge of reality. You feel the profound weight of this solitary vigil, this desperate struggle against the encroaching darkness, both literal and metaphorical. The smell of the burning tallow becomes almost hypnotic, a constant, greasy reminder of the fragile, flickering nature of life itself. You realize that in the deepest parts of the night, when the world is quiet and hope seems a distant dream, the most profound acts of courage and resilience can unfold in the smallest, most dimly lit spaces, where a single flickering flame illuminates the grim, unwavering dedication to a desperate, focused work of survival. The air in the private solar is thick with the sweet, cloying scent of dried roses and expensive, slightly stale wine, a perfume that seems to cling to the heavy velvet drapes and the intricate carvings of the oak furniture. You sip from a goblet of ruby red wine, the complex, bittersweet taste coating your tongue, a fitting parallel to the complex situation you now navigate. The chill of the polished stone floor seeps through your velvet slippers, a grounding sensation amidst the calculated warmth of the room. Across from you, seated on a richly upholstered armchair that feels almost like a lesser throne, is the Dowager Queen. Her silks are still magnificent, her jewels still glitter, but the years have etched deep lines around her once commanding eyes, and her hands, resting lightly on the carved armrests, show the faint tremor of age. Yet, beneath the veneer of graceful aging, you perceive an undeniable steely resolve, a cunning born of long years in a treacherous court. Her gaze is sharp, penetrating, missing nothing. She inclines her head slightly as a young messenger delivers a sealed scroll, her movements precise, economical, betraying nothing. You watch as her long, slender fingers, still adorned with heavy rings, break the wax seal with a snap that echoes unnaturally loud in the hushed chamber. Her eyes scan the parchment, and you see a flicker, a momentary tightening of her jaw, a subtle shift in her posture, a response to news, likely both good and bad, that only she can truly interpret. The scent of old parchment, slightly sour, mingles with the roses. You observe the young lord who stands by her side, ostensibly her loyal supporter, but his eyes dart discreetly towards you, then back to the dowager, a shadow of ambition playing across his otherwise composed face. There's a constant, unspoken tension in the room, a delicate dance of power and influence that continues even after the formal reign has passed. You feel the subtle currents of loyalty and self-interest swirling around the dowager, each gesture, each word, carefully weighed. She finishes reading, then slowly, deliberately, rolls the scroll and hands it back to the messenger without a word, her expression once again unreadable. She then turns her gaze back to you, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing on her lips, a look that conveys both the exhaustion of battles fought and won, and the fierce, unyielding joy of still holding a significant, if unofficial, sway over the kingdom. The bittersweet taste of surviving your own reign, clinging to power through wit and will, seems to radiate from her very being. You realize that true power, especially for those who have weathered many storms, is not always found on the throne itself, but in the cunning wisdom of those who have survived, who understand the delicate dance of influence, and who, even in their twilight years, can still orchestrate the future with a mere glance, a subtle gesture, a quiet, unwavering will. The air in the Queen Mother's private receiving room is soft and warm, scented with expensive dried lavender and the faint, sweet trace of honeyed tea. You stand on a thick silken rug, its intricate patterns barely visible in the dim light filtering through heavy velvet drapes. The quiet rustle of a lady-in-waiting's gown as she moves silently to refill a cup seems unnaturally loud in the pervasive calm, a stark contrast to the clamor of the main court. Your gaze is drawn to the Queen Mother. She sits in a high-backed chair, her hands, adorned with magnificent rings, resting in her lap. Her silk gown, a deep emerald, seems to absorb the available light, giving her a presence that is both understated and undeniably formidable. Her eyes, shrewd and intelligent, flicker across the room, lingering for a fraction of a second on various individuals. A silent, knowing acknowledgement of their presence, their purpose, and perhaps their hidden thoughts. You feel her gaze pass over you, a prickle on your skin, as if she sees directly into your unspoken intentions. She inclines her head slightly, an almost imperceptible gesture, and a nobleman across the room immediately clears his throat, shifting his weight, prepared to speak. No words are exchanged, no direct command given, yet the intention is perfectly clear. You watch the subtle tightening around her mouth, a faint line that appears and disappears, a silent judgment passed on an unseen situation. Every gesture is a carefully rehearsed move in a game only she fully understands. The warmth of the room is almost suffocating, yet beneath it, you perceive a cold, steel-like current of control. You feel the tension radiating from the other courtiers present, a collective anxiety to perform correctly, to be perceived favorably. A soft, almost inaudible tap of her fan against her wrist is enough to halt a burgeoning conversation, a delicate but firm command. The air feels charged with unspoken words, with implied threats and promises, all orchestrated by the silent woman at the room's heart. You take a sip of the honeyed tea. Its warmth, a small comfort against the chilling awareness of her influence. The sweetness on your tongue feels almost deceptive, like the smooth, unblemished surface of a perfectly crafted trap. You watch her slender fingers idly trace the intricate embroidery on her gown, a seemingly innocent action that, in this setting, feels like the careful weaving of a complex web. Her power isn't proclaimed. It's simply felt, a pervasive, silent force that shapes every interaction, every thought, in this hushed, elegant room. You realize that true mastery of power, especially for a woman in such a world, isn't always found in explicit commands or loud pronouncements, but in the subtle art of silent manipulation, in the imperceptible gestures that weave a complex, unyielding web of influence, making others dance to a tune only she can hear. The sickening scent of burning incense and old, rich wood is suffocating, mingling with the sharper, more metallic tang of smoke and recent destruction. You feel the grit of pulverized stone and glass beneath your worn boots, each crunch a painful reminder of what once stood. The air is heavy, thick with dust, making your eyes sting and your throat burn. You step carefully over fallen debris, fragments of once magnificent marble columns scattered like broken teeth. Around you, the vast hall, once a testament to imperial grandeur, is a scene of profound devastation. Gaping holes in the ornate ceiling allow ragged shafts of gray light to pierce the gloom, illuminating swirling motes of dust and the grim tableau of ruin. The silence when it falls is deeper than any you've known, a profound, echoing emptiness that speaks of absence, of an ending. Your gaze is drawn to the walls, where vibrant, glittering mosaics once depicted emperors and saints. There are now gaping wounds. Swaths of tiny, precious tesserae have been torn away, leaving behind rough, dark scars. You reach out, touching a remaining fragment, its ancient glass cool and smooth under your fingertip, only for it to crumble to dust at your touch. The image of a saint's eye, half destroyed, stares out from the wall, a silent, haunting witness to the desecration. The once sacred space feels hollow, violated. A low, mournful gust of wind whistles through a broken window, stirring the tattered remnants of heavy tapestries that hang like ragged shrouds. Their rich colors, once so vibrant, are now faded, covered in dust, mirroring the decay all around. You hear the distant, desultory clink of metal, the muffled shouts of unseen figures, sounds that feel disconnected, almost unreal, against the backdrop of such overwhelming destruction. Your heart aches with a dull, heavy throb, a profound sense of loss that transcends mere bricks and mortar. You walk deeper into the ruins, your steps echoing eerily, each sound swallowed by the vast emptiness. You notice a small, exquisitely carved piece of frieze, depicting a triumphant emperor, lying face down in the rubble. You gently turn it over, brushing away the dust, revealing the intricate details, and feel the cold, heavy weight of history in your hands. This isn't just a fallen city, it's the shattered heart of a 1,000-year-old era, reduced to dust and fragments, its glory extinguished, its memory barely clinging to the few broken remnants. You realize that even the most enduring empires, built with stone and ambition, are ultimately fragile, capable of crumbling into dust, leaving behind only the poignant, haunting echoes of their past and the stark, chilling silence of an irreversible end. The silence is the first thing that truly strikes you, a profound, eerie quiet that presses in on your ears, far heavier than any battle cry. It's not an empty silence, but a vast, suffocating absence, where shouts and screams once echoed, a sudden, unnatural hush that makes the hairs on your arms stand on end. You taste the lingering, bitter tang of smoke and damp ash in your mouth, a taste that seems to coat your very soul. You move carefully, each step an act of deliberate precision, your worn boots crunching softly on the jagged rubble beneath your feet. The ground is a treacherous tapestry of broken masonry, splintered wood, and pulverized glass, each fragment a testament to the chaos that just swept through this place. The cold, dry air whispers through gaping holes where windows once stood, stirring fine dust into ghostly currents that sting your eyes. You feel a deep, unsettling chill that has nothing to do with the temperature, a cold dread that emanates from the profound desolation. Your eyes sweep across the ruined cityscape, once a vibrant panorama, now a skeletal remains. Buildings stand as hollow shells, their roofs collapsed, their interiors open to the indifferent sky. Where colorful market stalls once bustled, only charred timbers and scattered debris remain. The silence is broken only by the mournful drip of water from a broken pipe, a tiny, incessant sound that emphasizes the vast, dead stillness. You reach out, touching a fragment of scorched tapestry, its once rich threads now brittle and stiff, crumbling to ash at your touch. Ahead, a lone figure, cloaked in tattered rags, meticulously sifts through a pile of rubble, their movements slow, almost ritualistic. You watch them, their back to you, their focus intense, a singular, desperate will to find something, anything, of value. They don't look up, don't acknowledge your presence. Each survivor is an island in this new, desolate world. You hear the faint, soft clink of metal, the whisper of cloth, as they uncover something, perhaps a forgotten coin, a small, salvageable tool. The scent of lingering soot and despair hangs heavy in the air, a constant reminder of the brutal aftermath. You continue your slow, deliberate search, your own hunger a dull, persistent ache in your stomach, almost forgotten in the face of such overwhelming loss. You pull back a heavy, charred plank, feeling the rough, splintered wood against your bare hands, and glimpse a glint of something beneath. It's a broken cooking pot, useless, but its presence speaks of a life, a meal, a home that was here just hours before. The silence presses in, a constant, chilling reminder of the fragility of everything, and the terrifying, primal need to simply endure. You realize that after the loudest screams fade, what truly remains is not just the ruin of stone and timber, but the profound, unsettling silence, forcing you to confront the stark, desperate reality that when everything is lost, the only thing left to salvage is the raw, unyielding instinct to survive, to find even the smallest spark of life amidst the ashes. The harsh, salty spray of the sea whips across your face, stinging your eyes and coating your lips with a bitter, mineral tang. It's a constant, invigorating assault, a raw taste of freedom that cuts through the ever-present scent of tar, damp wood, and distant rum. You grip the coarse, sun-warmed hemp rope, feeling its rough fibers bite into your calloused palm, leaving a familiar ache that speaks of hard-earned strength. You stand on the rolling deck of a ship, its timbers groaning and creaking with every rise and fall, a living beast that bucks and sways beneath your worn boots. The wind, a powerful, invisible hand, tugs at your weathered clothes, billowing the tattered sails above with a deep, resonant flap. Above the ceaseless roar of the wind and waves, you hear the shouts of your crew, sharp and commanding, the rhythmic slap of bare feet on damp planks, and the creak of block and tackle, a chaotic symphony of life at sea. Your eyes, narrowed against the bright, glinting sunlight reflecting off the endless expanse of turquoise water, scan the horizon. There's a profound, liberating emptiness stretching out before you, broken only by the distant, shadowy outline of a passing merchant vessel, a prize. Your heart gives a sudden, joyful lurch, a thrill of anticipation that sends a rush of adrenaline through your veins. You feel the tremor in your arms, the powerful muscles honed by years of hauling rope and wielding steel ready for action. A figure, dressed in sturdy leather and flowing silk, their dark hair whipped by the wind, stands at the helm, their gaze fixed on the distant ship. It's the Pirate Queen. Her presence is a force, a silent command that pulls at every soul on board. You feel the collective focus, the shared purpose that binds this motley crew. She raises a hand, a single, decisive gesture, and the shouts intensify. Ropes are pulled taut, and the ship, a creature of the wind, surges forward, cutting a white foam path through the blue. The air crackles with an almost palpable sense of dangerous freedom, of lawlessness and fierce loyalty. You feel the burn of the rope in your hands, the exquisite friction of exertion, a pain that is welcome, a reminder of control, of belonging. The sun beats down, warm on your back, a stark contrast to the cold, wild depths beneath you. The spray again washes over you, a refreshing sting that clears your mind, sharpening your focus. This is life, raw and untamed, far from the suffocating rules of landlocked kingdoms. This is the Pirate Queen's domain, and you are a part of its fierce, exhilarating pulse. You realize that for those who have chosen a life beyond the rigid confines of civilization, true freedom isn't found in comfort or safety, but in the raw, untamed embrace of the sea, where the sting of salt spray and the burn of rope are constant, invigorating reminders of a hard-won, lawless, and utterly exhilarating existence. The air in the bustling pirate haven is a riot of smells. Thick, briny sea salt, stale rum, pungent tobacco, and the savory tang of cooking meat, all mingling in a chaotic, intoxicating swirl. You step onto the rough-hewn docks, the splintered wood creaking under your worn boots, feeling the familiar slight sway of the land after weeks at sea. It's a sensory overload, a loud, vibrant world that constantly threatens to pull you in. Laughter, deep and raucous, erupts from a nearby tavern, quickly followed by the sharp crack of a glass breaking. The air is filled with a cacophony of shouts, barks of dogs, the creak of ships, ropes, and the distant mournful cries of gulls. You feel the press of bodies, rough wool and weathered leather brushing against you as you navigate the throng. Each face you pass is a study in grit and defiance, a collection of scars and narrowed eyes, betraying a life lived on the edge. Yet, beneath the apparent chaos there's a strange, underlying rhythm, an unexpected order. Your eyes, accustomed to scanning distant horizons, take in the scene. Colorful flags, tattered and sun-bleached, snap in the strong sea breeze from the masts of docked ships. Barrels are rolled with a heavy thud across cobblestone streets, their contents unknown but promising. You see figures armed with cutlasses and pistols, their movements fluid and practiced, but they move with a subtle respect for invisible boundaries. There's a code here, unwritten but universally understood, a brutal equilibrium that prevents outright anarchy. A burly pirate, his face scarred and his beard braided with trinkets, exchanges a quick, knowing glance with another across the crowded street. It's a silent communication, a shared understanding of this unique ecosystem. You feel the constant, low hum of danger, a prickle on your skin that keeps your senses sharp, yet it's a danger that feels earned, perhaps. Not the insidious threat of betrayal in a royal court, but the honest, upfront peril of a lawless life. You reach for the warm, rough wooden mug of ale offered by a tavern keeper. The sharp, yeasty taste a welcome assault on your tongue. The noise, the smells, the constant motion. It all settles into a familiar, comforting rhythm. You hear the soft, almost tender strums of a lute from a shadowed corner. A surprising melody that seems out of place, yet adds another layer to the complex tapestry of this place. This isn't anarchy. It's a different kind of law, forged in necessity and blood. A brutal code that somehow keeps a semblance of order amidst the wild freedom. You realize that even in the most lawless of places, where convention is scorned and authority rejected, humans still forge their own codes, their own unexpected orders, creating a unique and brutal form of community, where survival, respect, and a shared defiance against the wider world become the true pillars of their complex, exhilarating, and dangerous existence. The air immediately hits you, thick and greasy, reeking of coal smoke, hot oil, and the sharp metallic tang of superheated iron. It's a suffocating blend that coats your lungs and tastes like soot on your tongue, an oppressive presence that steals your breath. You step onto the uneven, oil-slicked floor, feeling the constant, shuddering tremor of unseen machinery vibrating up through your worn boots. Then comes the sound. It's a deafening, overwhelming roar, a continuous, hellish symphony of clanging steel, hissing steam, and the relentless pounding rhythm of massive engines. Individual sounds are swallowed, blended into a single, monstrous bellow that presses in on your eardrums, making conversation impossible, even thought difficult. You feel the sound itself, a physical force vibrating through your entire body, rattling your teeth, blurring your vision. Ahead, colossal iron giants dominate the vast cavernous space. Their gleaming metal arms rise and fall with agonizing slowness, then snap down with terrifying speed, powered by churning pistons that hiss and spit steam. Molten metal glows with a blinding, incandescent orange in distant crucibles, casting lurid dancing shadows that make the entire factory floor seem to breathe with a terrifying life. The heat radiating from these machines is intense, scorching, making your skin prickle with sweat that quickly mixes with the ubiquitous grime. You feel the sheer, raw power of these behemoths, a force utterly alien to anything you've ever known. Figures, small and indistinct against the monumental machinery, move with practiced, almost frantic efficiency. Their faces are smudged with soot and sweat, their clothes dark with grease, their movements precise, almost robotic, as they feed raw materials into the hungry maw of the machines. You see the glint of their eyes, wide with a mixture of focus and a weary, resigned acceptance. No one speaks. Commands are given through sharp gestures, hurried nods, silent understandings forged in the crucible of ceaseless labor. The air pulses with the rhythm of their work, a relentless, unforgiving beat. You reach out a hand, almost touching a thick, spinning leather belt that connects two enormous wheels, feeling the powerful suction of its movement, the palpable danger of its immense, unyielding force. A fine spray of hot oil occasionally spatters nearby, landing on the iron floor with a faint, sizzling sound, quickly evaporating into the suffocating atmosphere. You feel a profound, dizzying sense of being utterly insignificant, a tiny, fragile speck in the face of these roaring, steaming, unstoppable giants. This isn't just a workplace. It's a new, brutal world being forged. One clang, one piston pump, one deafening roar at a time. You realize that in the dawn of this new age, amidst the overwhelming heat and noise of these industrial behemoths, humanity is being irrevocably transformed, not just by the machines they create, but by the relentless, all-consuming rhythm of a world where profit and progress demand a new, brutal kind of sacrifice. The first thing you taste is soot. It coats your tongue, fine and gritty, leaving a bitter, acrid residue that seems to seep into the very back of your throat. You cough, a dry, rattling sound, but the cough only seems to pull more of the pervasive, coal-laden air into your lungs. It's a smell of perpetual burning, of damp ash, and of something chemically sharp, a suffocating blanket that clings to your clothes, your skin, your hair. You walk along a narrow, uneven street, the cobblestones slick with a greasy film of black grime. Above, the sky is a permanent, bruised gray, obscured by vast, churning plumes of black smoke that billow from countless factory chimneys, stretching into an endless, suffocating horizon. The sun, if it exists, is a faint, distant memory, a dim, orange glow struggling to penetrate the perpetual haze. Every breath you take feels heavy, thick with particulate matter, and you feel a dull ache beginning in your chest, a familiar companion. Around you, the city hums with a grinding, industrial rhythm. The distant clang of hammers, the rumble of heavily laden carts on rough roads, the ceaseless, low roar of unseen engines. It's a symphony of relentless production. Figures move like ghosts through the perpetual twilight, their faces smudged with soot, their clothes a uniform gray, their shoulders hunched against the unseen weight of the air. You see their eyes, tired and red-rimmed, reflecting a weary resignation. Each cough you hear, each ragged breath, is a stark reminder of the cost of this so-called progress. You pass a row of cramped, identical tenements, their brickwork blackened and crumbling, their windows dark and vacant, like empty eye sockets. The air here is even heavier, concentrated with the smells of poverty and disease, a stark contrast to the distant, clean scent of the countryside you vaguely remember. A child, no older than 7, sits on a doorstep, endlessly scrubbing a piece of cloth, its face unnervingly pale, its small hands raw and red. You feel a pang, a cold knot in your stomach, a recognition of the brutal human cost exacted by this relentless march of industry. You reach out a hand, touching a lamppost, and your fingers come away black with grime. The pervasive pollution is not just in the air. It's on everything, a permanent, indelible stain on the world. You taste the soot again, a bitter reminder of the choices made, the sacrifices demanded. The incessant hum of industry, once a marvel, now feels like a monstrous, insatiable beast, devouring not just resources, but the very health and spirit of the people who fuel its endless maw. You realize that the relentless march of progress, while promising a new age, often leaves behind a hidden, devastating toll, where the pervasive soot on the tongue is a bitter, undeniable taste of the human and environmental costs, a constant, chilling reminder that true advancement must account for the very breath we take and the world we inhabit. The air is thick with the pervasive scent of damp plaster, burnt wood, and old paper, a poignant, bitter aroma that catches in your throat. You feel the grit of fine ash and pulverized masonry crunching softly under your worn boots, each step through the ruined library a careful negotiation. The cold, raw wind whistles through shattered window frames, stirring drifts of dust and sending tattered pages skittering across the broken floor like desperate, voiceless birds. You move with a quiet, focused intensity, your hands, grimy with soot, sifting through piles of debris. Books, once neatly arranged on towering shelves, now lie scattered and broken, their spines cracked, their pages warped by dampness or scorched by fire. It's a scene of profound intellectual desecration, a silence that screams of lost voices and forgotten histories. You taste the dryness in your mouth, a constant companion that mirrors the parched, desolate landscape of knowledge around you. Suddenly your fingers brush against something thin, surprisingly intact amidst the wreckage. You carefully pull it free. It's a roll of parchment, fragile and brittle, its edges singed, but otherwise miraculously preserved. The feel of the ancient material, smooth yet delicate, sends a thrill of quiet reverence through you. You gently unroll it, your breath held, trying not to disturb the fragile surface. The script is elegant, a meticulous hand from centuries past, but the ink has faded to a ghostly sepia, barely visible against the yellowed vellum. You lean closer, squinting in the dim light filtering through the dust-choked air, deciphering a word here, a phrase there. It's a chronicle, a record of a king's decree, or perhaps a scholar's observation, a fragment of a life, a moment, an idea, now vulnerable to the elements. The contrast between the fragile parchment and the monumental chaos surrounding it is stark, almost painful. You feel the weight of countless forgotten lives, all contained within these fading lines. A distant rumble, a reminder of the ongoing conflict, shakes the ground, and a small cascade of pebbles rains down from a precarious archway above. You flinch, instinctively shielding the parchment with your body. A sudden, primal urge, to protect this delicate link to the past. The air suddenly tastes sharper, more dangerous, yet your focus remains solely on the document. The silence, after the rumble fades, feels even more profound, broken only by the frantic beat of your own heart. You trace a faded letter with your fingertip, feeling the almost imperceptible raised texture of the old ink. It's a testament to human resilience, to the stubborn determination to record, to remember, even when the world seems determined to forget. The precious fragility of the document, holding centuries of thought in its fading lines, now becomes a beacon, a small, defiant light in the overwhelming darkness of destruction. You realize that even amidst the most devastating chaos, where physical structures crumble and lives are uprooted, the resilience of memory, painstakingly preserved on fragile parchment, continues to whisper its truths, a quiet but unwavering testament to the enduring human need to understand, to connect, and to hold on to the echoes of what once was. The subtle metallic tang of old fear, almost imperceptible, lingers on the edges of your perception, mingling with the clean, fresh air of today. You stand in a quiet, sun-dappled room, the polished wooden floor warm beneath your bare feet, yet you feel a cold, inexplicable shiver trace a path down your spine. It's a sensation that has nothing to do with the current temperature, but with something far older, far deeper. You pick up a smooth, cool river stone from a small wooden bowl, turning it over in your palm. Its surface is perfectly unblemished, a simple, comforting weight. Yet, as you hold it, a faint, almost imperceptible whisper seems to emanate from its very core, a soundless echo of countless hands that have held similar stones through centuries of desperate hope and profound uncertainty. It's the whisper of ancestral memory, of a past that resonates in your very bones. Your eyes drift to the window, watching the familiar rhythm of modern life unfold outside. Cars humming softly, children laughing in the distance. Everything appears safe, orderly, predictable. But then, a news headline flashes across a screen you pass, speaking of a distant, unseen threat, a new crisis looming, and suddenly, the familiar comfort of the present begins to fray. You feel a prickle of unease, a tightening in your chest, a response that feels disproportionate, yet utterly primal. It's a fear that feels both ancient and alarmingly current. You remember the sweet stench of pestilence from stories, the grinding emptiness of hunger winters, the suffocating smoke of accusations. You rememberfully taste of poisoned wine, the clink of chains, the deafening clang of besieged cities. These aren't your direct memories, but they are a part of the human story, woven into the fabric of generations. You feel their echoes now, a phantom ache in your own limbs, a ghost of collective trauma stirring in the quiet moments of your own existence. The fear of the unknown, the distrust of power, the longing for stability. These are not new sensations. They are ancient threads, rewoven in the tapestry of your own time. A sudden, sharp breeze rattles the window pane, and you instinctively flinch, a sudden, irrational spike of adrenaline. It's a reaction born not just of the present moment, but of centuries of human experience, of genetic memory responding to the sudden, unexpected. The smooth stone in your hand feels heavier now, a tangible link to a past where every rustle, every unexpected sound, could mean the difference between life and death. you taste the faint, almost metallic tang of that ancient caution, a vigilance passed down through countless generations. You realize that the crises of the past don't simply vanish into history. They leave an indelible echo, a silent resonance in our very bones. Our fears today, however modern they seem, are often deeply rooted in the primal struggles of our ancestors, reminding us that while times may change, the fundamental human experience of vulnerability, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of survival remains a constant, unwavering thread through all of history.